right. So Nicole, you and I were just backstage, and I was talking about, geez, you know, you have all this massive reach, and yet less than 10% of the folks in the room are actually utilizing you right now. And you said, well, we are newer to this space. So let's start there and just talk about the journey that you've been on. You've been there for a couple of years?
Not quite a couple of years, just about a year and a half now.
Yeah, so catch us up to date. Like, what's new?
Yeah, so we launched a little over like 3.25 years ago, let's say. So we are a newer entrant to the ad space, which probably most folks in the room know. And you know, when we launched, you know, the moment that Reed announced that we were going to be in the ads business, we had 0 ad subscription members on the service. So fast forward, we've done a lot. So we're really proud of the momentum we've built over the last 3.5 years. And notably, next month it will be a year that we moved the US business to our Netflix ad suite, which is our proprietary ad tech. From that moment to today is really where, you know, I would say like we went in overdrive, because it really allowed us to innovate much faster along with our partners to really drive, you know, a really brand safe environment, incredible creative that, you know, advertisers want to leverage and members want to see, along with, you know, a lot of great data that comes along with it to drive results for our advertisers. So it's been a great journey.
So when you introduced advertising, I know that there were some folks who said, well, wow, this is a big change. How do you strike the balance between maintaining what viewers love about Netflix, yet making some money from advertising?
So, you know, at the core, everything that Netflix does is really around, we talk about our mission as a business to entertain the world. And that's really through, you know, incredible storytelling, which, you know, hopefully everybody in this room has seen that we bring. Part and parcel of that, you know, my kind of shticky one-liners, we believe that we can entertain the world with advertising as well. So we're being very mindful of how we've gone to market, and hopefully for our partners in this room, they've seen that. The ad load within Netflix is much different than our CTV competitive set, and certainly different than linear television players. So I think that's one. How we're approaching the member experience with the creatives that we bring to life is also different, right? We're bringing a different creative experience to the advertising world, because we do, you know, what we shouldn't do in CTV is kind of lift and shift the linear model between ad load and the creative experience and all the things that go with it into this new world. We have the ability to do things differently, and that's something that we take very serious at Netflix. So we are being very, very thoughtful and intentional about how we approach the ads experience to make it different.
All right, so you got to unpack that a little bit. What does that mean, you'll do stuff differently? Like, can you make it real? Like, what are the ad units or the experiences that an advertiser can chat with you about?
So just as an example, let's just start with ad load, right? Different members, different humans actually have different tolerance levels for advertising. Historically, most players, both in linear and CTV, it's sort of consistent ad load across everybody. We're looking at that very differently. So first of all, our ad load right now is much lower than anybody in our competitive set. And secondly, the way we're approaching advertising generally is to really understand there are members that actually have a different like interest level in seeing more ads versus less ads, and really being thoughtful about how and where we deliver an ad so that it really helps drive, for an advertiser perspective, if we know that a particular advertiser will match well with a member, we should deliver the ad to the member. We should not deliver the ad to the member just because we can deliver it from an advertiser because we have an ad slot to fill, right?
Yep.
So thinking of maximizing it that way. Relative to the creative experience, you know, and Amy, the global president of ads, showed this at our upfront last year, is we have tremendous storytelling and tremendous IP at Netflix. And we're working with brands today to actually bring to life the combination of their advertising brand in conjunction with some really interesting IP that we're bringing to life, just making the advertising experience like truly entertaining, where people are like trying to look for the ad that we did, which, like, you know, when you're searching for advertising to look at it to be entertained, that's a good thing.
Can you give us an example? Because this seems really cool.
Yeah, so one example, and I don't want to like pick a favorite child here, but one example that I really love is we did a great integration with TurboTax and WWE as an example. Something that you probably wouldn't think to put together. But if you look at the ad, it was all the WWE wrestlers. We do Monday Night Live every Monday night. WWE is like, it was during tax time, and we did a really tremendous amount of creative experience, like talking about how the wrestlers were saving time doing their taxes with TurboTax as an example. But there's many, many other examples. So.
Yep. Case studies, I mean, can you share something results-wise? Like what kind of lift are people seeing? Like who's had just like a spectacular result with you in Netflix?
So we're doing some interesting work. We launched a conversion API at CAPI recently, and we did some great work with Tenuity as an example that are driving some really great sort of outsized results for a variety, ed tech, fintech, and others. So, one thing that Netflix brings is great engagement with our members and great attention, which is really, we talk about being the center, bringing brands to be the center of attention. And when we do that, it drives results. What we're finding is like, that's not just a statement, we're actually driving outsized results. So when you start talking about actual conversions, because of that engagement, because of that attention, we're really seeing that come to life, not just for sort of brand awareness being on the service, but also lower funnel.
Yeah. Now, I think I'm right in saying another thing that you're experimenting with is programmatic as well. Is that right?
Definitely more than experiments.
Yeah?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Heavily in programmatic. So today we just announced, just kind of hot off the press, that we are, we launched partnerships with Amazon and Yahoo. I guess it was summer of last year, in addition to the partnerships that we had before, but we are actually bringing Amazon audiences and Yahoo audiences to be leveraged within the Netflix environment, similar to how we've been doing Google audiences for a while now. But that really gives us the ability, we really think about meeting advertisers where they are, whether that's via IO or programmatic, which is obviously like 80% of the transactions in CTV in the US are through programmatic. So how do we allow brands to leverage the audiences that matter to them to create consistency in how they plan, how they activate, and how they measure Netflix relative to everybody else they're buying? As much as we'd love to be 100% of their buy, we know we're not. So how do we ensure that we're the best partner to be able for them to leverage sort of the consistent definitions that they have to drive their business forward?
So not necessarily 100% of the buy, but always on the buy.
Exactly. And hopefully, an increasing part of the buy, which we think we have a right to for sure.
We've talked a lot already about AI. And I am sure Netflix has some strong views on the future of AI in your offering and your advertising. And so what are the key points that you'd want to make about that?
So like AI is a big term right now, and it can mean a lot of things. I think inherently what it should matter to all of us in this room is just being able to do our jobs better, faster, more efficiently, and that can show up in a lot of different ways. So as an example, when we're creating plans right now, we're leveraging lots of data and AI to make sure that we are putting forth the best plan for a particular advertiser that, by the way, might look different than what they've done in the past. But based on what we know, because we have so much data, we can look at vast amount of data much faster than any human can to actually derive based on the outcome that an advertiser wants to see through AI. That's just an example on the front end of the process. And Netflix has always been a technology at the core company, and we're really good at ensuring that you get recommendations based on content. If like the Netflix and chill phenomenon is real. If anybody's sat, somehow we know what you want to see. That's through a lot of data and looking at what we think you might like based on what you've seen before. We are kind of lift and shifting that same thinking into advertising from a member perspective, like what they're watching and what ads might want to show. All of that is through technology and AI, right? How can we potentially know what somebody may or may not be interested in based on what we know about them. So there's lots of different ways that we're gonna go. Ad load would be another one, like I said before. Like all of these things are part of a puzzle.
Now, if I look out at the room here, I mean, we have a pretty wide variety of both advertisers, agencies, and partners represented, and some of them are very big and are quite experienced in buying large blocks of television. Others might be SMBs who would look at television and say, hey, can't afford the production costs. So I'm just curious, like, does AI expand the universe of potential advertisers and change how you deliver the message?
I mean, it definitely could. From our perspective at Netflix, we are not currently focused on SMB. We're definitely focused on sort of like the larger brands and advertisers. Again, we just entered the ads market just a bit over 3 years ago. So we have a lot that we can do with sort of the larger brands and agencies that we work with. But certainly, AI changes a lot of things. Automation changes a lot of things, and SMB can be, for sure, a piece of that puzzle as well.
Yeah. When I was on stage earlier, I talked about measurement. So I'm curious, it's always been TV's biggest challenge. How do you think about measurement? What should advertisers expect from Netflix?
So I'll say a couple of things. One is that, similar to what I was saying before, I think we have a real opportunity in CTV, and I think it's really important for everybody in this room that is part of the CTV environment, whether you're a buyer, a seller, anywhere in between, to not lift and shift, linear GRPs into a digital world. That would be really doing a disservice to all of us in the room, to the consumers, et cetera. So from our perspective, flexibility is really key, right? Because at the end of the day, an advertiser, whether it's for a branding purpose or a much lower funnel purpose, is looking for a specific outcome. And going back to my sort of flexibility notion, depending on what that outcome is, our job as a supplier, sorry, I hit my mic. Our job as a supplier is to ensure that we can provide the measurement needed to that buyer to ensure that they hit the outcome based on our results so that could happen through a data clean room, right? That could happen through a third-party measure. It could happen through a lot of different ways. But really, flexibility is key because there's not one size fits all, whether it's an MMM model or an agency technology. Some of the agencies have their own technologies, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, it's just flexibility and ensuring we don't lift and shift because there's a lot more we can do in the digital world than we could do in a linear world.
All right, I'm looking at time, Nicole. I'm thinking we might have time for 2 last questions. Okay. And I have these note cards up here. I have not been following them at all.
He has not been following at all.
We're just having a conversation.
Yeah.
And so.
But if you know Scott, this is no surprise.
Yeah.
Why did you even send questions?
So here are the 2 questions that I'm dying to know the answer to. With you, over the next day or so is John Whitcomb. And John runs product for Netflix. Mm-hmm. Brilliant. So what's the really cool stuff?
You're gonna get a big head, don't say that.
What's the really cool stuff that he's working on? The things we should expect from Netflix that no one else has heard about yet?
Look, I mean, I can't make any new announcements here on stage, but we are doing a lot of innovation. Like I said, we're only 11 months into our own ad tech journey. So John and his team, along with our tech teams, have really been, when I say sort of foot on the gas, full speed, that is not, an exaggeration. So we are building very, very quickly. And to your point about sort of a smaller, concentrated amount of folks that are leveraging Netflix on your, it doesn't surprise me because we're less than a year in. So we have room to go there. But I think what we are really intentionally doing, like I said before, is just doing things differently. So the creativity that we want to bring to the CTV environment and really make it look different, right? Mm-hmm. At its core, and that could mean a lot of things. That could mean, bringing our IP closer to advertisers, which we're doing more. That could be, we have a huge amount of incredible data that we sit on at Netflix that we are in a privacy compliant way starting to work on through yourselves and others to, kind of do data appropriate privacy compliant data collaboration. That's going to start making CTV look different as well. So to me, it's sort of this balance of data and technology making things faster, more efficient, more personalized, balancing that with a really incredible creative experience, which I think, Netflix really has the right to win with that combination, because we have great stories, within our environment, along with this incredible data as well. And within ads environment, we're able to bring those things together to really, create like a very unique experience in the marketplace. And I think, at the core, our product team and frankly, all our teams are really focused on how to do that well and thoughtfully.
So what I'm hearing, and tell me if this is wrong, is for anybody out there who's not advertising with Netflix right now, what I heard you say is a lot of flexibility and interesting stuff can be done on the audience targeting side, both through data that someone brings, but also viewership information you have.
Right.
And then a lot of flexibility around the creative side. So sounds like you ought to be having a lot of interesting conversations here.
We definitely are. We have a lot lined up, and if anybody wants to have one and we don't have lined up, you can find me right after this. And we have a lot of folks on our team here as well.
So I got one last question.
Yes.
One we've never talked about.
Okay.
But I'm going to
Shocking.
So I used to be a consultant way back when for the Boston Consulting Group, and there was always kind of the inside joke of the hardest clients are the folks that used to be consultants, because they know exactly what to ask for, where to customize, where to push. They know everything. So let's fast forward a few years from now. If you weren't at Netflix, but were a client of Netflix, what would you do to ensure that you got the absolute best performance from Netflix?
Today, you're saying okay. So I think our best partners today are actually the ones that push us, because again, we are a newer entrant, so we're building. So where we're finding the most success with clients are actually the ones that are leaning in early and learning with us, building with us, because we have a good amount of partners, thankfully, that are really, as excited as we are about the opportunity we have ahead. But as you know, innovation takes time, it takes iterations, it's an investment, right? It just doesn't, you don't, snap your fingers and it happens. So to me, it's lean in with us, learn with us. We have a ton of alphas and betas that are coming out all the time because we're building so fast. And the partners that are really leaning in with us and learning with us, I think are the ones that, I know, are really the ones that are, getting the most out of Netflix.
Well, I will tell you my experience, and maybe this is a good place to end. Thank you. You are such a great partner to work with. You push LiveRamp very hard from a technology perspective.
And I was never a consultant.
And I know the outcome of that is a better experience for the advertisers and agencies in this room. I know you have really cool stuff coming down the pike that you're not ready to share yet. Right. I cannot wait for all of us to see what that is. And Nicole Pangis, you're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.